as the music world and fans today mourn the loss of Nipsey Hussle, we do want to look into the rapper's legacy, of course, and into the potential he had to make an even stronger mark on the world that we now unfortunately will never see. I'm joined now by Angel Diaz, a writer with Complex Magazine. Angel, thank you for being with us this morning.
How you doing?
So, Angel, we have been talking about how, he was just nominated for Best Rap Album at the Grammy Awards. And I think we've seen over the past several hours since the news of his death, so many celebrities taking to social media in shock, in mourning, speaking about what kind of an incredible person he was. I mean, Drake had posted and again, I think said that they had planned to work together soon. We saw a tribute. Here's Drake's post now. "You were having the best run. I was so happy watching from a distance. You were a real one." Diddy also taking to social media to post about him. He said that they'd worked together on his last album, Victory Lap. Diddy saying, "I don't even know what to say. I'm confused. Nipsey and I had just started really getting to know each other. I feel honored to have worked on his project. He represents change, evolution. He represents everything our culture needs to embrace. God bless you and your family." So, I mean, I think that speaks to, it seems like he was hitting the stride and so many people were so excited to get to work with him. Can you speak a little bit about where his career was at and where it was heading?
Well, I mean, obviously it's one of the saddest days in rap that I can remember, man. I mean, recently we lost Mac Miller, and Nipsey kind of had that Mac Miller aura, right? Where you see this outpouring of support for his family and just people remembering the times that they worked with him. I think he came a long way, man. He was, he was selling his first mixtapes in front of that store, before, when he was in the street still, when he was hustling, like he went from that to owning that strip mall, so he opened up a STEM center. He for underprivileged kids, he was investing in the community. That's why, it hurts so much. And, like his catchphrase is "the marathon continues," right? So this doesn't ever stop, man. Like he was just going to keep going and got nominated for a Grammy. Who knows where where the limit was for him, man. Like I can't even, it's hard for me to talk right now.
I'm sorry. I mean, 33 years old, and what's sort of striking to me is I think that, on the one hand, I mean, look, some people make it in this business younger than 33. And on the other hand, some people wait until they're much older to give back to their community. So he was sort of at 33 years old, it seems to me like in this place where he'd worked for years to really hit this incredible stride. And then already at a young age, he had the awareness of the importance of giving back to where he'd grown up and trying to make change there. I mean, we were just talking about how people were gathering around outside of that store that he owned, that strip mall that he owned. And he, like you said, I was reading about how he'd started this center. He said he wanted to bridge the gap between Silicon Valley and the inner city. He wanted to give kids in his area a different awareness of the importance of technology and different realms that they could pursue careers in, not just necessarily in being athletes or music, but in different types of entrepreneurship. And so it just seemed like he was somebody who was really thinking outside the box and really trying to make a difference. And that seems to be why people are so especially hit by this, because he was someone who was really making a difference. Is that, you speaking to like just how emotional people are, is that what it is? Is it because he was someone who had the sense of change at such a young age?
Well, it was really because if you follow his career, I mean, I got put onto him around '08 during the Bullets Have No Name series. And you could tell by the way he rapped and his voice that he really lived what he was rapping about, and that he represented, the community. So we always root for guys like that, And I remember when I interviewed him in 2013, we had sort of a contentious interview. He didn't like some of the ways that we covered him in the past, and we basically hashed it out. And this was around the time where he came out with his Crenshaw tape, and he was selling 100 copies. No, I'm sorry. Yeah, he was selling 1,000 copies for like $100, something like that. And people call him crazy. Like, who's gonna buy a $100 mixtape? And that strategy worked. Like he bet on himself. He made people believe in themselves. So
yeah,
that's why.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. No, you go ahead.
No, yeah. So that's why people gravitated to him so much, because he wasn't only talking about it, he was doing it. He was putting his words into action.
Yeah, and he got the attention of, people like Jay-Z, and I think I'd read an interview with him where he said, look, I didn't have any connections. I didn't have, the uncle in the music industry or the rich so-and-so person to help me. I really had to hustle myself. How did he get the attention of people who were, bigger and established? Was it because he was doing different things, like charging $100 for a mixtape? What was it?
Well, it was just him, man. It was his attitude, his way of doing things, the way he treated people. Because even me, after we did that interview, we met at South by Southwest, and it was love. Like ever since that interview, every time I ran into him, it was love. Like he acknowledged me. We sat down. We would talk about things. We would smoke a blunt or whatever. Like it was just he was just a genuine person. And to see that he started in front of that store selling those tapes. That's where he met Lauren London at. And to see him get shot in front of there is it's sad.
I'm sorry, I can hear it in your voice right now, and it's, for you guys to have this, 10-year-long connection with each other, I'm so sorry. It's, go ahead.
I'm sorry. It's like, yeah, like, in that interview in 2013, he told me about Victory Lap. He had those plans already. It took him about 5 or 6 years to really, to put his plan in motion. He signed a deal with Atlantic, a full partnership where he didn't have to give up any rights to his music. He just showed people that you had to, own your music, own your masters, to bet on yourself, and the sky's the limit from there.
Well, and hearing the pain in your voice and seeing the reactions from people who'd known him and who had worked with him. Now, Rihanna saying similar things to what you're saying. This doesn't make any sense. My spirit is shaken. Why do you think that this could have potentially happened? We've been talking about that he was very open about having a past with the gang world and growing up in an incredible world of violence, sadly, in his neighborhood. But it seemed like he'd made so many changes for himself, and he was honest about his past. Why could this have happened? Do we have any idea? Was he, he sent that tweet. It's about having strong enemies. Do we have any idea what could have happened here?
Well, the sad part is too, growing up in that environment, no matter how far you go, you never leave that behind, right? Because you have family and friends that are still living that, and when they get arrested and they get locked up, that affects you still, even if you're not living around there. So I don't want to speculate on what happened. Maybe it was some gang related thing. I don't know. I think it could have just been people hate, man, and people are jealous, and they don't want to see somebody doing better than them.
Yeah.
So I really am not sure.
Well, and if, it takes you back to other times when we've lost incredible artists too soon. And again, we don't know exactly why this happened, but it's a place I don't think we want to go back to. Nobody wants to see, you see the incredible pain that happens when people are lost too young for acts of senseless violence, and nobody wants to go back and experience the loss of these artists because they can make such incredible change. And like you said, he was doing that, starting that center. Can you talk a little bit about that center he'd started where I think it was a co-working space? And again, he really wanted to kind of bridge that gap between, he said, Silicon Valley and the inner city.
So I think it was called Vector 90, and it was a building where one floor they had like a co-working space, right? Like kind of like a WeWorks. I don't know if you guys are, obviously you guys are familiar with that, where, you could rent the space out and do your job or whatever. So, and then the other floor was dedicated to science, technology, and math, right? For inner city kids, because a lot of Black and Latino kids, they don't really see that as a viable career option for whatever reason. We want to rap, we want to play sports, or, at least that's what we're told that we should be doing. So I think it was important for him to do that kind of thing, because he was always big on technology, right? Like these artists these days, especially if you're born, in the 80s, like he was born, I think, in 85. Like we grew up with technology. So, and he used technology to become this successful, right? When he was, going straight to consumer and selling his mixtapes on the website. and selling his merch. And then from there, he opened up a store, and he had an app. He had an app for the store where people, to make it more interactive. So he always had that kind of vision or whatever for technology, and to see him bring that kind of thing to South Central is important.
Yeah. I'm not sure how close you were knowing him and interviewing him for some time, but with Lauren London or with any of his friends, have you spoken to anybody else this morning?
No, I haven't. I just my friends that I grew up with that, we listened to him before, when we were ourselves, in the hood trying to make it happen, and everybody's just sad, man. This is like Cardo, producer Cardo Got Wings. He tweeted that it felt like September 13th, 1996 in LA. That's the day that Tupac died. Like Nipsey was one of those guys that he was more than music to a lot of people.
All right, Angel Diaz from Complex Magazine. I think that's a note to end it on, Angel, to remember that he was more than music. We really appreciate your time, and I hope that you can kind of continue to process this today, and I hope that the day gets better for you. I'm so sorry. Thank you.
Thank you.